And then another person just switched to Zoom as well. So perfect. So share, looks like you're sharing. And then maybe hit this little green up arrow where it says share screen on the right. See on the bottom, that little up arrow next to the thing. Yeah.
Okay.
And then perfect. That actually you're good. So it should be screen sharing.
Hello, can anyone hear me? I can't hear any of them.
Yep, we can hear you.
I hear you.
Hey, hi there. Good morning, all.
Perfect. So we can, let's go ahead and go back to the presentation.
Okay, bear with us. We're just getting set up.
All right.
Right there.
Perfect. Can you guys see the presentation?
Actually, I'm going to need to interact with them.
Oh, okay.
So give me 2 seconds here. Oh, gosh.
There you go. You could just hit this speak on that.
Okay.
And we can toggle back and forth.
Wait a minute.
Okay, you looking for the chat?
Yeah.
Where is that? Go to more, maybe? And then go into chat, yeah.
There we go.
Is it working?
Uh-uh.
Click it one more time. Maybe just because it's so small.
Let's see. I have no idea. Can any of you guys say something?
Hello.
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 Hi, very good.
Perfect.
Since I am solo here, we're Zooming today. Thank you very much. We're going to do this on a chat method. Is that good with everyone? Oh, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, very good. So this is session number 5, the buyer consultation. Let's see. Well, we're going to wing this today because I'm not used to instructing, but I think if you guys are good with it, we will do just more of a chit chat as we go. Does that sound good?
Sounds perfect.
Okay, very good. So this is really what we're going to get down to is how we're going to conduct a buyer's consultation. I don't know if all of you know me, but I am Darcie Barton. I have been a real estate agent now for, let's see, on and off for 18 years, 2 different states. I came from a larger team previously here. I was with the Reigns Group prior to this. So, I'm sorry? Okay. And then I was actually with Keller Williams prior to that. I was a team leader at Keller Williams Excel. And before I was there, I was with Keller Williams Consultants for about a year at that office. And previous to that, I was with a very small Keller Williams office down in Harlingen, Texas. So kind of the only thing I can really tell you I can bring to the table is a lot of different experience, a lot of different buyers that I've been able to talk to over my career in a lot of different buyer situations. So really what we're going to do here today is kind of how do we reel in these buyers from lookers to actually purchasing a property and going to closing, which we all want to see. I can tell you from my personal experience, I typically handle more buyers than I do listings because if we don't like one, it's on to the next. And I always feel like you can always be the hero and you get a lot of quicker sales working with buyers than you have with sellers. So sometimes sellers, it's a different mindset. Some people love listings, some people love both. I happen to always gravitate towards buyers for what I've done in my past successes. How did I do that and how did I rein them in? So that's kind of what we're going to go over today. This is really just to focus on getting that signed representation agreement, and that's basically the first step to getting your buyer closed and getting you a paycheck. Okay. Let's see here. Okay, so what are the successful agents doing every day? Number one, they're obviously growing their business, and at the same time, they are running their business. Lead generating for buyers and sellers, making seller listing presentations and getting the listings. Where we're highlighting today is making buyer presentations and actually selling them a home. Let's see, running your business. Obviously, we're all knowing how to do that, or you learned that in another class already. Yes.
Did you want them to see that screen or the other, the camera? I see the camera, so I didn't know if you wanted.
Do they not see that screen?
I think they see.
I'm so sorry,
Oh, no,
guys, bear with me.
I think I set up the wrong one. Make sure this one. Should be able to. This one is not sharing. It's so weird, isn't it?
Share screen.
Oh, here we go.
There we
Clicked on the
go.
wrong one, that's my fault. There we go. Sorry, Darcie.
No, that's
I was like,
okay.
oh,
Can
no.
you guys now see the Ignite screen?
Yep.
Yes.
So sorry.
Okay.
My apologies.
No worries. We're good. Okay, now we're back onto it. We're gonna go back one. So with that being said, how are we doing this? Number one, if you get a lead, we're obviously trying to set that appointment. Once you set that appointment, as you're getting ready for that appointment with that buyer, prepare your buyer's presentation. We're going to go over it here soon, some slides and some templates that Command does offer you for your buyer's presentation if you don't have one. And then going through and conducting the buyer presentation at the consult, doing a recap and ahas for the day. And sorry, let me get over there. And then the daily success habits. So if you guys can turn to page 5, does everyone have a participant guide?
Yes.
Oh, you have it. Turn to page 5. Basically, what are the goals of your buyer consultation appointment? Can anyone answer me that?
Securing the buyer.
Correct. Getting that, and also, how do we secure that buyer? We're going to secure a buyer by getting that buyer representation. So basically, that is the end goal of when you're setting an appointment, is go through your appointments, go through your presentation, and we'll get into details about that, but basically telling them about yourself, finding the common goals that you can get to the buyer. So finding out, I can tell you what I do at this point, whether I'm taking a phone call and trying to set that appointment. I'll start out. There's things that I will always ask. My first question being, great, so I've asked them where they are in the process, how long they've been looking. They're looking, find out, great, how have you been looking? Open houses? Have you seen the inside of houses? It's a great question, only to find out if they've seen the inside of houses, has it been on a, or are they working, most importantly, you want to know, are you working with another agent? If they're telling you yes, or they have, or I will tell you 90% of the time, they're going to tell you, well, I've just seen houses, or an agent's put me on a search. I've casually looked, they send me property. They've been looking for a while, they kind of get the game. You really want to find out, have they signed another agency? If so, asking, why are you looking, you're talking to me? Sometimes they'll think that you're the listing agent, and that not all buyers have been instructed or future paced to know what that agency means. So depending on how the conversation goes, finding out, great, how long ago was it that you worked with the agent? Out of curiosity, those lead questions will always help you with that as well. Finding out whether or not they've signed an agency. I will typically say, I don't want to step on any toes, but just out of curiosity, have you ever worked with another agent? If they say yes, great. If so, did you sign any paperwork with them? And find out, obviously, you are going to have to pull back if they have, or ask them how long ago it was. So I'm going to want to know that, number one. You want to know the locations that they're looking at or what they will consider. The price point. Price point will usually lead into, out of curiosity, are you paying this house? If you find the right one, are you paying with cash? Or are you looking to finance this property? Finding those things out, and okay, great. If you are going to finance, let's say they're financing, have they spoken to a lender? Those are always great setups to find out at the end goal, what's the motivation? Are they just starting in the process, or have they been doing this for a while and they have an agent that they did not connect with and they are looking for someone else to gain that representation? Those are really big things, and you're all coming down to leading into setting that appointment. I suggest, me personally, is setting an in-person meeting. If we can do it at an office, or if we can do it in a place, I know with COVID, it's kind of made it a little creative this past year. But trying to set the appointment and giving them some sort of homework. If they future pacing a client is always the best way to go. Great, if you have a lender, making sure that they've reached out, how long has it been since you've talked to them? If they're not too happy and they want to explore rates, giving them options for other lenders. And a lot of times they will go with my preferred lender only because I have someone on the weekend. And a lot of times if they're with bigger banks, that they don't have anyone that they can reach out to. That's a good one. That's great homework to have them work on that, or getting a proof of funds letter and explaining that proof of funds letter, what they need by the time you have this appointment. All of these things, when you're setting up this appointment, are going to be great for when you actually, if they are motivated, it finds out how motivated they are. Really asking those questions and kind of that pre-consult to setting the appointment gets you better prepared on what you need to have ready when you actually have the appointment, or if they are not ready to talk at that point, having someone on standby and being able to contact a lender, contacting a bank, those types of things are getting you prepared for when you actually come to this consult. So the buyer consultation is basically your opportunity to get a long-term relationship with the buyer. During the appointment, your goals are to discover their wants and needs, valued, so really exploring those more in detail, delivering your value propositions, setting expectations for how you will work with the buyer to find their dream home. I think this is really an important one. Again, I can't stress future pacing enough, and it's going to depend. A lot of us, you know, whether you're an independent agent or whether you're working on a high volume team, explain to them. If you have someone that's an administrator, and you can be an independent agent or work on a team, but explain a little bit how the process works. I've got a template, and if I can give everyone my email. If you want to send me an email, I can kind of show you an outlay of what I send every buyer. And it's more a timeline or a process of what a buyer, from the time that we meet at that appointment to the closing day, what their expectations are, what they're going to see in the process. And I think it's a really good template just to kind of break down how we're going to write the offer, when we have to do inspections, and again, going back to that value proposition, kind of looking at having them expect and empowering your buyers a little bit. You know, you're not working for free, but you're working more as a team. You're not going to get paid and they're not going to get a house. You have to work in tandem together. So finding out what the details and their wants and needs are really, really huge at that appointment. And they're going to sign that. If you give them a good presentation at that point of that meeting, you've got someone that is ready to do this. They're motivated and they want to take the next step. So at the end of that meeting and then closing with having them sign a buyer representation agreement. With that being said, I don't know if anyone's going to answer this, but how often do you go out with buyers not having a buyer rep signed? Does anyone dare to answer my question? Okay. All right, and I'll just keep talking. I will tell you, when I first got into this business, my husband was a very good, he's not in real estate. He runs a company, it's completely different, but obviously he works on the side of taking care of vendors, taking care of clientele. He oversees a couple hundred people on a factory line. So his checks and balance, he was my accountability partner when long story short, I was in car sales for 18 years prior to getting into real estate. I didn't have a clue what I was doing. So anytime that I got a lead, I did not ask about motivation. When I was ecstatic when they wanted to meet with me, and he called it, that was my chasing carrots phase. And I tend to agree with him now. I chased every carrot. If I could get a warm body in front of me, I was showing houses. I wasn't signing a buyer rep. I was just excited that I could actually practice on someone. And I will tell you, I wasted a lot of gas, a lot of time. I was showing people that I met at open houses that really were looking their neighbor's house, never even thought about it, but they wanted to go see pretty houses. They wanted decorating ideas. They didn't want to buy a house. I'm not ashamed to tell you that, but I can't say that I'm not the only one that's probably been through that. I'm sure every one of us had a few horror stories from way back in the day when we either started last week or 30 years ago. We all got caught up in those moments. I can also tell you that there have been other times that I have taken a buyer's word, whether I've met them on just a cold lead, there was a connection there. They had told me in person, they were casually looking. They didn't sign anything, and I was off to the races. I took them at their word. I didn't sign a buyer rep with them. I'm thinking of one client in particular that I took them out. I probably showed them, I would say 9 to 10 houses. We were just getting ready to write an offer on a property, and they called me, I think the night before. We were going in for a second showing. They called me the night before. Their agent talked to their son or their daughter, because that was the relationship they had with the other agent. They were not happy with this individual. And that agent got wind that they were showing with another agent, and the buyers called me and said, "Oh, Darcie, we feel so bad, but we had just been made known that we have an agency that we're still in. They had 3 more months and they couldn't let this house go." And it was a very, very good learning lesson at that point, because I showed them, well, let's just say 10 houses. I built the camaraderie. I did everything right except for really nailing down and asking more, I guess, open-ended questions. What I mean by an open-ended question is more conversation starters, not giving someone the ability to answer yes or no, and it's more to conversation start. So when you find the next house, what does that look like? They can't answer yes or no. They're gonna have to go into detail. It's going to get them to keep talking to you more. So those are, just to run off that, that's kind of where we're going with that. Has anyone heard of a buyer, B buyer, C buyer?
Yes.
Okay. What is an A buyer? Can anyone answer that?
Let's go. Let's buy a house. We're ready.
They are able, ready, and willing to purchase a new home. So they have a pre-approval letter. They have proof of funds. You have those documents. They've shared them with you, or you know that they exist. They are ready. So either A, if you've got a first-time home buyer, they are month to month. They're capable of moving. They've already have a plan of action set up. And if they put something in the contract, they can give you a timeline to switch these properties. And they're ready. Ready meaning motivation. They are willing to jump off this cliff and start looking. They'll be under contract within the matter of weeks, hopefully, with fingers crossed. You can also use the buyer lead sheet. You can use that in command from the toolkit to classify these buyers. So that's A buyer is the one that we always strive. That's where we're going to show them houses. B buyer is someone that's just a titch ready. They are working on getting their pre-approval. They have funds getting ready to transfer or liquidate, that they can get a proof of funds letter. A lot of times if we meet people at open houses, they're BC buyers. So that B is, okay, well, we just started this process, but we're ready to do this, I think. Or there could be someone that if they're renting, well, we're ready to do this. If there was a way out of my lease, I would be buying right now, but I've got 4 months ready to go. Okay. So they, depending on how much time that they have to do, and whether they're willing to either have proof of funds or have that, start having those conversations with the lender, and the lender thinks they're solid as soon as they're out of that prior commitment of the lease, that's going to be your B buyer. That B buyer could turn into an A buyer, which, hey, you could get that call tomorrow, someone saying that you've categorized as a B buyer and you're waiting 3 months for them to, kind of mature on that rental date. They could say, hey, listen, we worked it out. We found out that we could pay $1,000 and I paid $1,000. I'm now month to month. I'm ready to start. They've immediately, with that phone call, changed the path of a B buyer to your A buyer. I'm going to recommend that any A buyer that you're working with, you better have that representation agreement explained and filled out in writing before you start jumping in a car and showing them homes. C buyer is the people that are calling in, they're casually looking, they're gonna buy a house sometime, but they're waffling. They're not really sure where they are, or there's someone that might have some blemishes on the credit and they would love to buy now, but you've talked to them or talked to their lender, they're willing to do that, but they are a ways out. That's going to be your C buyer. Your C buyer is someone that has either just started the process, they're kicking it around. Yeah, they want to see houses that are coming up and get an idea of what the market's doing, but they have no anticipation of buying the house within the next 6 to 8 months. Sometimes they're a year. I've met a lot at open houses. They're 2 or 3 years out, and they're saving up money or they're trying to get out of school, but they're starting to be curious about the market. Don't give up on these C buyers. I've had in my career, I've had more people that have started a conversation that I could quantify that first meeting as a C buyer. And if I put them up on a search feed or I've put them into my lead generating system that is constantly, depending on how far out or how you do your lead generation, those reminder contacts, they will hit to where that process changes, their timeline changes. I mean, how many times have we been and this is our goal? Well, goals and plans, life situations happen that can either change a situation. And if a situation changes, you want to be the first thought in their mind to come to you if they do turn into that B to A buyer. And I've had a lot of those people that there's a particular plan and 30 to 45 days later, something's changed or something's been updated and boom, we've got everything in a process and we're out looking at homes and ready to write contracts. So that's always a great thing. So you can see from this template up here, your lead generation model. As a solo agent, you're prospecting, marketing. You capture a lead, you set an appointment. Your leads are tracking and making offers. One way to offer, you do a touch base program, which again is in our command system. Number 3, your contacts, connecting and offering interactive and value-based touch-based programs. So you've connected. Now you go down again, you're cultivating. You're doing action-based touch programs. You've nurtured them and you've pre-qualified them. So going to 5, so now we're setting the appointment, we're actively looking, we're finding the property we want, we're putting and writing the offer, we put them in contract, and then we're going to closing. So if you have that A buyer, once you have the A buyer, it's time to close for the appointment. At this time, you'll also want to add or update this opportunity in your command database. It's a safe option to schedule your buyer consultations in your office or conference room, market center, or a lot of you. Has anyone been doing their buyer presentations on a Zoom call?
I have.
How successful is it, or how different is it for you, Sue?
Most of my people appreciate at least the first consultation with them, and it's gone really well. I just set up a Zoom call and we meet. I have one tomorrow night, so it's worked well.
Really?
Yeah,
So-
and they understand. I mean, they're like, yeah, we don't want to meet with you, So it's worked out well.
Do you find would it depend on a price point? Like, is there a certain price point that you're getting more receptive? Is it more millennials or is it across the board?
No, I think it's across the board. The meeting I have tomorrow night is with a senior couple and their son. So, and they're all okay with it. They think this is a great idea to meet first, this way. I'm like, okay, that's what we're going to do. I honestly am a little nervous about being out any more than I have to. So I'm just trying to set them up that way.
So if I hate to use you on this, but I think it's a great idea. So you've done this, you're successful with it, but you mentioned something about, you mentioned their son.
Right.
And the reason I asked that is, did you future pace them because they might not be familiar with Zoom or maybe not understand the technology? And
no, their son is the one that reached out to me initially and said his parents wanted to work with me and that how would we proceed? And I said, well, the best way the first time is to have a Zoom call. You can accomplish the same thing. So, I mean, I've sold 4 houses this year that buyers have bought without physically walking through the house till after they closed it. So it can be done.
Through the house.
What's that?
You said that they never walked through the house?
No, the only with me doing Google Duo with them. Yeah. But they wrote the offer, they were competitive, they got, yeah. And I walked them through the home inspection on Zoom or Google Duo. Yeah. It works. Yeah, you just have to shift your mindset, I think, a little.
Yeah, I agree with that. Well, and all of us have been shifting that, and then really, I think we have to be a little bit more vulnerable on what's the comfort level. There's going to be some people that are just not receptive to this. I've had some clients at the start of this that absolutely would not wear masks. They think they're ridiculous. For me, I have always found my outlet to use humor. And lately, I've just been saying I forgot my makeup, or I'm having a breakout, and I love covering my face. So I think it's really just adapting to this and trying to make this comfortable as possible, because I will tell you, more likely than not, Sue, I think it's amazing you've been able to do that with 4 different buyers. I haven't encountered that yet this year. Every buyer that I've put in contract, we've gone through the house once or twice, at least once. But I'm still meeting with clients and going through the process. But I will tell you, most of them is either a lot of my buyer presentations this year have shifted. I haven't done Zoom calls. I've done them over the phone. I've sent my buyer paperwork, but I will tell you that pre-call before I set the appointment has kind of morphed into a mini appointment, future pacing on what we're going to do with the appointment. I will send them the buyer listing presentation, and then we will talk about it over the phone. And most of the buyer reps that I have signed this year have been sending paperwork just through my DocuSign. I don't know, anyone else how have they been doing it? Is anyone else out there currently working and felt your model change a little bit from last year?
Yeah, I just want to do a caveat to that. The 4 buyers that I sold this year that purchased without physically walking through the house were also out-of-town clients. So they had no choice. They couldn't get here, So that hasn't happened with somebody local.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm doing the same thing where I'm doing Zoom buyer consultations. And then for my out-of-town buyers as well, a couple of them have bought the house without ever physically being in it.
Have you noticed any pushback from it? Or is
It's
it
their choice? No, they love it.
Yeah.
They love it. Okay, that's great. Thank you for sharing.
So you develop a different relationship through that process. It's kind of interesting.
What do you think? Do you feel that is there anything, obviously we know it's different. Is it different better, or is it just flat out different? Or is there something that you think that you're not getting from where we were last year at this time?
I feel like they're appreciative. I mean, it takes a lot of extra work to do it that way, because when you are their eyes, their ears, you're their nose. They can't smell. They can see, they can feel the space, but they can't smell it. So we always kid and say, I'll be your sniffer while we're here. But it does take a lot longer because you're walking through filming, you're opening cabinets, you're cleaning out things. I mean, yeah, it takes a lot longer.
You're protecting yourself too.
Yeah. So I think it's just a different way to create a relationship and it's worked. So
So it sounds like with you both, thank you very much for sharing. I truly appreciate it. But it sounds like they're actually looking at you as more trustworthy because you're innovative and kind of ahead of the curve. Do you agree?
I think we're just doing what it takes to get them into their houses. Both of my clients needed to move. It had to happen. One was in Seattle and couldn't fly. And then the other one had serious health issues and could not, even in the summer when things were a little relaxed with COVID, just could not be around people. So we just did what it took.
That's awesome. Thank you very much for sharing. Did anyone have any questions? Okay. So let's flip here to role model. Set the appointment. The goal of the buyer consultation appointment is to have the signed buyer's agreement. Setting the tone for the closing and the buyer agreement begins with the invitation to meet for a buyer consultation, Zoom for a buyer consultation, you know, whatever that looks like to you, but actually getting the motivation where they're ready to do this appointment. If you could turn to page 14 in the script book, and scheduling an appointment for a buyer consultation using that script on page 18. Does everyone see it? Just make sure that I'm there. Oh, well, I went too far. Oh, I went way too far. Oh, good Lord. Okay. Let's see. Scheduling an appointment for the buyer consultation using the scripts on page 18. Can someone read off one of the, because they didn't give me that. So could someone read off in the appointment book a script that they are giving you as an example? Okay, well, let's just go off the side here for a minute. Is anyone using scripts? Does everyone know what a script is? Or when you hear that, a lot of people call them a pitch too, which I can't stand that word. But does anyone have a script that they use every time that they're talking to a buyer? Okay, well, I'm going to tell you again, I don't like scripts, but my feeling on that changed. So I will tell you, when I came again from Keller Williams, knowing absolutely nothing about real estate 18 years ago, when I heard the word script, it reminded me of the word pitch. And being in the car industry before, I hated pitches. It reminds me of pinky rings and tie clips. And that is not me. What did change my mind, and I will tell you, I'm going to throw myself under the bus. When I came to Keller Williams, I love the idea because everything was formatted and there were options, but I hit a brick wall when I started with this company when I saw the scripts. And I'm like, I'm not a robot. I love to go off topic. I'm not feeling that script. What if I'm not in the mood? And I have this huge fear complex about the scripts. And I think I can't remember. I think it was when I was with Excel. I had thrown off this spew of what I just told you. And I can't even remember who told me, but someone at Keller Williams said, Darcie, when you were in second grade, how did you learn how to talk? And I said, I went to school. And I'm like, yeah, well, that's a script. When you learned your ABCs, that is a script. You can go off script, but you don't have to sound like a role model. Look at the scripts and find out what is the sole purpose or the meaning behind a script. What are you getting out of it? Where do you want to guide a buyer to get the information to help you do your job better for them? That's the way I took it. And it enlightened me. I will tell you, over the years, I've created a lot of my own scripts, or I've taken other scripts where, oh, that aha moment that you get. And it's like, wow, that's another way of saying the same thing, but it's new, it's catchy, and what is going to spark someone's curiosity? We're all trying to get, a lot of us, there's what, 10,000 agents in the state of Ohio, or 10,000 in our board, sorry, that we're all using some form of a script, but how you preface something to someone, how you say it, or how you get a reaction to get them to talk is really going to get that information out. So finding scripts that are your go-tos, you can always go off topic. I will tell you, a lot of agents that I've met over the years, and we're all different breeds. Some will go word by word, and that's what they say every single time because it's comfortability. There's some that will start out that way and using the script word by word, but they'll change it over time, or they'll find another one and they'll morph the two. That's kind of what I've done over the years. Again, I can tell you that I think there's probably 15 basic questions that you will find that you are answering or you're consulting for when you're either talking about your background, talking about the process, concerns of buyers, either why they can't buy now, what classifies their motivation. Again, there's probably 15 different scenarios, and really knowing the basics or building the foundation. I think some of our longtime agents, I don't know, you tell me, Sue, you're one of them out there. Do you use scripts?
Sorry, I was on mute. Well, sure. I love to listen to scripts, and I love to, but I make them so they're for me.
Sure.
I think scripts are good, especially when you're trying to overcome objections and things like that. So yeah, I make a habit of studying them. Do I do them verbatim? No.
Right.
Because most of them, they're not me. So, but can you take that and make it your own? So yeah, I use scripts, or I utilize them to create my own scripts. So.
Right. Would you agree, disagree? There's probably between 15 and 20 major objections you find yourself answering, repeating,
Sure.
See, what's the market like these days?
Yeah.
Probably a common question. How's your business? Or objections, those common questions. Do you find that there's
Is it a good time to sell right now?
Right.
What? Yeah. Oh yeah. Those are pretty common things. Yeah.
I think it also depends on where we are and what stage of our business that we're in, but I think having the fundamentals, if you're new in this business and you're just starting out, I think scripts are vitally important because it's not something that is second guessed. Really learning as you grow your business and as you become more confident and as you get out in the market and you start learning it, you start adapting and you start evolving into, there are basic things that you need to know. Just by having one conversation, you can start classifying clients, where they are in the tier, how quickly are they motivated, or is there apprehensiveness with a buyer? First-time home buyers, I've talked to a number of agents over the years. I get a consensus, a lot of agents don't like first-time home buyers. And what a lot of agents told me is that they feel like they have to do a lot of hand-holding and they have to work a lot harder with first-time home buyers. I'm going to tell you my personal experience. I absolutely love first-time home buyers. Here's why. First-time home buyers, they need you as guidance. You take care of them, you answer their questions, you empower them, you get them that first home, they will come back to you for life. If you take a good job, answer their questions, be attentive, follow up, do what you say you're going to do, they will send you friends, family. I have built a network in a very short amount of years, after leaving here 15 years, coming back, losing my client base and having to start all over again. In 8 years, I have built a phenomenal Rolodex, and most of my business this year was on repeat and referral business. And 90% of those buyers started out as first-time home buyers. I loved them. They also typically don't come with bad habits. They haven't done this. Don't worry, I'll get you a pre-approval letter. Has anyone had that? Oh, I'm fine. My credit's great. Don't worry about that. That for me drives me crazy. Number one, that is something that you have to combat and overcome right off the bat. Because typically those previous home buyers, they don't want to waste the time. So, you have to start qualifying that a little bit more. You got to find out, okay, why don't you want to give me a pre-approval letter? Are you just not that serious? Are you really just looking and want to go see 15 houses but have no plans to buy? Those are red flags for me personally. First-time home buyers, it's amazing how much more that they are going to actually do whatever you say. Not always, I'm just talking statistically, they're a lot easier to mold on the process. They're going to look to you for guidance, but they're also going to be loyal if you take care of them. Anyone else had any clients that, just out of curiosity, does anyone like first-time home buyers versus seasonal? They bought 3 houses, that style of buyer. Does anyone have one that they prefer over another? Okay, well, then you know where I stand on that. Let's see, so let's go on to the next slide. Okay, so now we've talked to our buyer, we've got someone, they're willing to set the appointment. Either A, it's on a Zoom call, B, it's in person, however everyone feels comfortable, but you've set the appointment. There is a buyer presentation, is that tool to help you get to know the values, wants, and the needs of a buyer during a buyer consultation appointment. So preparing that buyer presentation, that is huge. In your designs and command provides you 2 templates for a buyer presentation. They're fully customizable, they'll match your value proposition and the buyer you're meeting with. The presentation is a tool or a guide to guide you through the conversation, provide the client with tangible demonstration of your expertise and as a real estate agent. I can tell you too, you can also customize those in addition. If you want to put, let's say you have, you pay extra for, I don't know if someone out there does some sort of lead generation system or, even building a slide on, hey, we've got 350 agents in this office. We explained to them about buyer exclusive. We've got a great network of agents. We have high volume listing agents in this office. I think everyone should have a slide. Number one, that does 2 things. It's going to build credibility with Keller Williams Capital Partners, but it's going to give them that nugget on what differentiates you as a buyer's agent versus 999 other agents in this territory. Use the brokerage. We've got these agents here, plus we have a network within the office. We share upcoming listings. Building that coming soon, telling them, well, this is a tool, I can set you up on this. It's brand new. A lot of agents haven't been talking to buyers about that. So telling them that you can give them that avenue, but in addition, our brokerage has a high volume office. I'm going to tell you, this is part of my, what I call my canned speech. As I'm very proud of this brokerage, even though I am not a lifer here. I hope to be soon. The reason I say that is because why did I pick the brokerage? I'll tell you exactly why I picked the brokerage. Number one, we have fantastic agents, but we do have a high volume of listing agents in this office. We have a great network set up. We've got it through Facebook, we've got it through YouTube, but we are networking. We found creative ways to do it, but you do get privy of some of these properties. You can also reach out to 349 agents in this office. Do you have any upcoming listings? If so, do you have exclusive? Can you share it with me? Those types of things, I use that as a selling tool for why they need to use me as a buyer's agent against anyone else. That does differentiate using the other agents, not using them, but leveraging them to showing that you are the power force, that you know what you're doing. I think it's very, very beneficial to do that. That also gives me reasoning that it was very targeted, strategically reasoned why I left my previous brokerage. So that's not a lot of fluff. That is something that I use in my buyer presentation to tell these buyers the reason. Number one, I made a move. It touts our brokerage and it tells them the calculated reason why I did it. Does anyone have any extra slides in a presentation or something that you point out that you think differentiates yourself as a buyer's agent or a buyer's presentation when you're working with trying to get a buyer to sign on with you? Okay, well, if you're not doing that, hopefully that's a good nugget for next time. Okay, let's move on to here in Command, this is where we have the designs. You can build your templates here. If anyone, I think, well, I cannot remember her name, but you have two different designs. I'm going to tell you on the side note, I had one that I bought, it was actually from Etsy. I took half of our Command designs and I used another platform just because I like the font set a little bit different. It kind of differentiated myself. And I took a lot of the things that we are using in Command and I put them into another platform that I purchased for, I don't know, $7 off of Etsy. So you have all kinds of things that you can do with this, but Command has some really good ones, or at least that building foundation, you can always go from there. Okay, so let me get you back to the buyer presentation. Helps you connect with the buyer and build confidence in your value proposition. You can make changes to this presentation, including adding, deleting, or reordering the sections. So let me get you up to, here you go. Your table of context. You can edit all of this within there. Just make sure that if you're going to edit anything, make sure that your table of context is corresponding with that as well. Does anyone have any resources that helps prepare you for your buyer presentation? Okay, well, I can tell you, depending on how that initial conversation will go is going to make me decipher what I'm going to be prepared. So having that pre-conversation on the phone helps me set up. So to kind of stem off this a little bit, do I do the exact same thing for every particular buyer? Absolutely not. It depends. If they're seasoned buyers, depending on if they have to list a house, So if they're doing a listing and a buying, I'm going to foreshadow, okay, well, if you have to buy to sell, or if you have to sell to buy, that's going to change the presentation, because now you're going to pick up a listing. And or do they not need, they want to buy a house first, put it in contract, close, and then they want to list their house. It depends. So depending on what the situation is, or in the process or life event that the buyers experience, the reason that they're looking to make a change or add a home versus a rental, it is going to decipher my presentation on how I put it together. So you have different resources within the presentation for this buyer. Remember to change those table of contents to reflect the content changes if you add, remove, or reorder sections. The participant guide will also contain example pages for the buyer presentation in a modern template. You can view, edit, and complete buyer presentations using either a modern or traditional template and designs. Has everyone used the buyer presentation in Command? Okay, well, I told you my example, I have used that. I've kind of taken two different platforms and put them together. Okay, so their dream home. The first section of the presentation sets the tone for your relationship with them. It opens up by asking buyers to explain their dream home and their buying experience. If you turn to page 6 on the participant guide, review the page from the buyer presentation. And well, let's see, we'll just move on that. This is going to set the tone for the appointment, establishing buyer needs, wants, and values as the center of the relationship. This will also help you use this in the presentation and cover buyer values and motivations for their move. As we talked earlier in the session, you know, knowing the motivation, the timeline, what they need to do, what do they have to sell, do they have to fulfill a rent, so on and so forth from there. Does anyone see anything that they would add or change on this page? Okay. Well, let's see, we'll just keep moving on. Building your preference, let's see, this section of the buyer presentation is the preference profile. If you turn to page 8, the participant guide, we're going to go through this here. Building a preference profile is about uncovering expectations and preferences for communication and anticipated timeline of your buyer. We've kind of been talking about that all the way through. Can anyone tell me how they track information across multiple buyer consultation appointments? Is there anything that someone uses that is different? How do you track your buyers? Does anyone want to share? So I'll give you number 1. There's not only one answer. You do have, there is a place in Command that's going to give you a way to track your buyers. I can tell you, I've done mine for years on an Excel spreadsheet. And if anyone wants the template, email me, darciebarton@gmail.com. If you would like that template, I'd be happy to share. Okay. So during a buyer consultation, great tip, take notes. Taking notes not only captures the information for you, but it also demonstrates to the buyer that what they are saying is important to you. After the appointment, you should update the buyer's contact information in Command, include preferred methods of contact. You can create a custom field to track additional preferences, such as preferred time of day, how they would like to be contacted, and using tags to help you organize your buyers and share preferences. I will tell you, for someone, as you can see, I can run off. If I'm not on a strict guideline, I need to be clear and present in the moment. Taking notes does several things. Number 1, it makes me write it. So when I write it, it's easier for me to recall it in the memory. It builds a relationship, it builds trust. So even if you're on a Zoom call, I would still be taking notes. Pan out your Zoom preference if that's the way you're having a buyer consult, but have them see that you are in the moment. And I think it's been important. I've gotten to learn my buyers that way. I've gotten to build the relationship, and it's built trust that I'm actually sitting there taking notes and going from there. Okay. Your home wish list. Use this home wish list selection to ask buyers about their ideal home. Customize these questions based on the market and the information you have already obtained from your buyer lead sheet. Questionnaire is the foundation of your needs analysis. It will also help capture a precise picture of what your buyers are looking for in their next new home. Page 11 in the participant guide, take notes as you practice at home the wish list questions. These questions are great for, number one, detailing, again, building a relationship, getting those open-ended questions out, getting them to talk about what they see. Really, at the end of the day, I wouldn't use this line, but you really want to find out what makes you look at this home versus what makes you buy this home. What you want to find out what that factor is. There's a lot of times that buyers, they don't know. They know it when they see it. They'll tell you that. There are things, asking open-ended questions to get them to talk. But I will also tell you, husband and wife teams, hysterical. Hysterical because I'm going to say just for my buyers that 50% of the time they think that they are on the same page. And guess what? They're not. There are non-negotiables for a life that the husband could care less about. But there's also non-negotiables for a husband that the wife could care less about. She'd buy this home. I will tell you too, is Sue brought up something great about her buyers, and that is you can turn them into those non-negotiables for both of those clients. Might not be a big deal for one part of the party, but is a huge deal for the other. Maybe they haven't voiced it. I've had a lot of times when I've been in a house that they will uncover something just walking through saying, I could care less about this. And that's the whole reason I want to move. Those things can happen. And the more that you ask open-ended questions in either on the phone or a buyer consultation on the Zoom call, you're going to get more of that to where you can kind of get to that needs analysis and be prepared when those things arise. It'd be better that you find that out as you're looking for homes versus you're in a home and you find out we are on the wrong demographic. Okay. Let's see. Neighborhood insights. Has anyone used this? I'm going to flip you to the next page. Has anyone been doing the neighborhoods insights? I have. It's really cool. I haven't perfected it yet. I would love to know someone that would, see if they've figured anything else out, because obviously this is not something that has just been with us for 10 years, but this insights page, it provides information to the buyer and demonstrate your knowledge and your expertise. The page positions you as the local market expert. I've set up a few. When I first started this on a couple of buyers that they didn't get it, and I found out that I did not foreshadow this enough, as well enough. As I've gone through now, everyone's kind of been, I've had a few buyers say that's really cool and that they get insights to other neighborhoods that they've never gotten before. So that's kind of a neat thing. Using this in the designs command is to create a neighborhood snapshot for each neighborhood zip code you want to include in the neighborhood insights. So doing that needs analysis, knowing the locations of where they are will help you build this insight so you can actually put these demographics in. For help creating a neighborhood snap, go to the article on theanswer.kw.com, listed in your participant guide on page 11, and that will walk you through how to do that. Let's see, neighborhoods in your market that you would want to include for comparison for the potential buyer is based on the home wish list. Writing down a few neighborhoods that they, or either you recommending in a buyer consult, or 9 times out of 10, they're going to give you some ideas of neighborhoods, but either knowing the zip codes, finding out if they have children, is there any kids going to school? Those are big indicators, because then you're going to find out, you know, is schools important to them? Sometimes you get older clients and they don't want to be in a really good school district. They don't care. They want resale value, but they want lower taxes. So knowing those motivation indicators are going to be important to build that demographic for them. Okay. So then explaining the process. When we're explaining the process, how home buying works, explain a buyer who knows what to expect is a confident buyer. So again, needs analysis is going to be huge, and asking those pre-qualified buyer questions. Confident buyer is easier to work with than an anxious buyer who mentions objections throughout the process. You may need to explain this difference between a pre-qualification and a pre-approval for a loan to your buyer. Pre-qualification is a preliminary evaluation of how much a buyer can afford to borrow, while pre-approval is more involved process. So in these terms, hopefully everyone knows this, but a pre-qual, so basically a lender has probably asked for their social security number, they've pulled their Beacon score, or they've had a 10-minute conversation with them on how much money do you make, how long have you worked there. Where you go in, and that's going to be a pre-qual. So you can get a pre-qualification that way. And then, or I'm sorry, that's the pre-qual. A pre-approval, a little bit more extensive. Instead of having that, they've had that conversation with their lender, but now they've actually asked for tax returns. They've verified some income. They've sent pay stubs. They've actually can show in writing that they're a pre-approved buyer and they've got them ready to go. The lender is completely engaged and can give you that pre-approval versus a pre-qual. So that pre-qual is that phone conversation and it sounds good. That pre-approval is we've got them verified to this point that we can actually say, yes, I verified these options. You've got a good, strong A buyer. The buyer, so how much a buyer can afford to borrow, while the pre-approval is more involved process in which the lender verifies income, employment, other financial information to evaluate how much the buyer can afford to borrow. Affiliated business arrangement disclosure. This is going through our next one through Keller Mortgage. This is on page 15 of your participant guide. Keller Mortgage page is a buyer presentation. It is optional. You do not have to use it. If you include Keller Mortgage page, you must also include the affiliated business arrangement disclosure at the end of this document. So basically, anytime in the state of Ohio, if you have a company or a subsidiary that is working to where the main branch, that being Keller Williams, is, so you have a sister company that you're working with, you always have to disclose that relationship. That is what this affiliated business arrangement disclosure is going to do. Hopefully everyone knows where to find that, but if you're using .loop, I think everyone would see it, but obviously it's in DocuSign as well. You'll need to customize the first line of the disclosure to include the name of their market center. I know that, I believe that is already done for us, so I think you're good to go there. Keller Mortgage is not available in New York or Canada. If your buyer is looking at homes in either of those markets, you must remove Keller Mortgage page and the affiliated business arrangement disclosure of this document. Okay, good to know. Getting closer. All right, your value proposition. Let's see. This part of your buyer's presentation is all about presenting your value proposition. As a new agent, you may choose to include data from your team, your market center, and Keller Williams International to present your best value story. As your business grows, track your successes, include the number in the buyer presentation. Again, this is going back to, you can edit all of this depending on what stage of your career you're in. I highly recommend, if you are an individual agent, using the brokerage as a whole or our market center as a whole. You can do some of that, and just building your value to help your buyers going through. And then you can get also, anytime that you want our numbers, if you need help with our numbers, you can talk to either, well, you can talk to anyone from the admin, but Renee can always pull your numbers for you as well. And you can see market center numbers if you need to add any of that content within there. Let's see. We're gonna flip to, I would also do, so there's gonna be, the buyer presentation also contains testimonials. Agents should work to get the testimonials. Hopefully someone, once you get a closing, sending out an email, if you have pre-populated generated testimonials, thanking your buyers and sellers for their business, but asking them to rate you through, and you don't have to include, just on the side note, if you've built your realtor.com, your Zillow, those are pre-populated within there. You don't have to be a member. You don't have to pay into them. I will tell you, developing and growing testimonials in those places is another great way they can find you on those lead sources without paying for them. It is a great option. Having them, so realtor.com, Zillow.com, Trulia.com, they have pre-populated templates or a link. And you can send those to buyers to have them rate you on those sites. When you do that, it shows up. So if they're searching for an agent and they have to be using one of those platforms, if you have a positive lead generation or positive feedback from past clients within those sites, you don't have to pay for anything. They're still going to show up there. And if they happen to catch you and someone said something fantastic and great, the more that you build that business, you don't have to pay for them. So now you've got a demographic where they're finding you through those outfits without having to pay some of the absolutely outrageous numbers we've been hearing that they're charging us as agents. So there's a little tip. And one other thing, prior to a meeting with a buyer, you should always print a color copy of a customized buyer's presentation to give to them. Some people, I don't know if anyone's doing this, but some people are emailing them as they're going when they're meeting. Sometimes they're bringing a hard copy and giving them. I'm going to tell you, I take a hard copy every time. If that's something that they don't like paper, great. I will email them once the presentation is over. It's going to be on the fly, but I would have that ready just in case they're going to want something. You don't know that about the buyer yet, but they want paper. Older generation like myself, we love paper. So I haven't completely gotten out of that yet. All right, so those scripts for welcoming a buyer to a buyer consultation and a closing appointment with a signed buyer's agreement. That once you complete this, you've got to roll on welcome a buyer presentation. So this is going to walk you through. This is the one of them that's in command. What's a effective delivery presentation begins with welcoming a buyer to the setting and the expectations for your appointment. Page 14 in your script book is where we're at. Let's see. There is, yeah, I can't see it. We're going to move on. There is a script on page 14 that lets the buyer know why it's important to spend time at your office discussing wants and needs prior to looking at houses. This will save you time with a buyer later in the process. Well, 9 times out of 10 anymore, lately we're not even meeting with them at that point. So you can do that in a Zoom call, but really just, again, that it goes to future pacing your buyers and knowing for them what to expect and any types of issues that you're going to have at that point. Make sure you rectify them at that point, or go back. If you have to go back and start over again, you can. So the goal of a buyer consultation is to include a signed buyer's representation agreement. We know that. This is a legal document that formalizes your working relationship with a buyer, detailing the services you provide and the duration of a relationship. The agreement protects you from spending valuable time with a buyer who ultimately uses another agent to purchase a home. Okay. We are not going to do the scripting because we don't have you here, so I'm going to skip ahead a little bit. Hopefully everyone's sharing the KW app with your buyers once you have these appointments. You can show them in the presentation on how this is going to work. Hopefully everyone knows how to share the app. In your app, it'll show you share the app. You're going to obviously have their phone number and their email. This will show up once they accept it. It will show as you're their agent in there. So every time a home search is set up for them or a new listing pops up that might be beneficial to them, it's going to come under your header. So don't forget to share that with them, so the buyer, and show them how to use the search features in the guide and follow along with the home buying process. When you share the app, your branding will be there along with your shared along in the app, and you can start tracking your consumers' engagement with the app. So you can open your KW app on your mobile device, tap U tab at the bottom right corner of the screen, tap share the KW app. This will open a sharing option on your phone. You can share the app via email, text, or social media apps you have on your phone. As long as you are branded on the app you are sharing from, the agent association will carry over to anyone you share this app with. Okay. As your clients are creating collections on your KW site and app, you are able to view the listings and those collections within the contact record. How will collections help you inform the buyer consultation process, and what are some of the trends you can look for to fit your buyer's needs? Okay, let me get through this here, aligning your guide. So sorry, I didn't skip ahead. This is going to show you. So anytime that you have those collections set up, hopefully you're seeing this within your KW or your Kelly app. If you've created these collections, this is what you're going to see in your Kelly guide. I don't know. Is anyone using the Kelly guide? Is anyone able to share any experiences with it? Okay. Well, then we're just going to skip ahead then. Okay, so in your command, you have the ability to customize a buyer's guide to fit exactly how your business runs. You can add or remove steps, edit the information with the steps, and also reorder the steps of the guide. It's designed to walk your clients through the process of buying a home while tracking their progress throughout the process in the app. So demonstrating how to customize the buyer's guide this afternoon, you review any of these articles are on answers.kw.com. You can map out these steps of your business using these activity pages in your guide 19 through 21 of the participation guide. This is broken down. You can log into KW command with your Keller Williams login credentials. You click on the consumer icon on the left side of the page. Click the buyer guide tab at the top of the page, and the edit icon beside the consumer guide you want to edit. During the process of customizing your consumer guide, you're able to reorder the steps, edit the information and the information within the steps, add new steps and remove steps within that consumer guide. Okay, so recapping AHAs, based on what you've learned today, what do you need to prepare? Is anyone now changing anything, or, well, I guess we've hit that. We found out that Zoom is been a big proponent, and it sounds like that is actually building some buyer value with a lot of these buyers. It's showing how agents are revolutionizing and not staying with status quo, and it's helping and making a positive outcome for buyers. So I think that's really cool. Is there any questions for today? Okay, well, I think that's where we're at. Sorry that we went late. If anyone wants to, again, my information, darciebarton@gmail.com. If there's any of those templates that someone is interested in, let me know. You can email me, text me, or call me, and I'll be in the office for a couple of hours if anyone needs anything. Thank you so much for being here and being patient, as I'm not the best teacher, but thank you for staying with me. You guys have a great day. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.